Shalom guys. It is the 20th day of the 6 Hebrew month and it is September 30th, 2018, Sunday afternoon here in beautiful Alaska. There's the link to the White House petition, and I put it under every video now, so please go there. Remember, you have to verify your email. They'll send you an email verification or it won't go through. We're only at like 398 signatures, so we got a long way to go if we're going to get that 100,000 by October 28th. So please spread this far and wide. And if people ask you about why I named Pence on there, then just point them toward the Pence videos I have, which has a ton of proof that Pence has been aiding, abetting pedophiles and is a pedophile himself. Okay. Get the mountains in the background here. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom. Okay, so this is a pretty serious subject that we're going to do today, so I thought having a beautiful background might temper things a little bit. So I was actually able to talk to an SRA survivor. He was brutally used when he was just a small boy, when he was 5 years old and a little upwards. This all happened in the 1970s. He doesn't want me to use his first and last name. He wants to remain anonymous. However, as I talked to him, because I did a pretty extensive interview with him during my lunch break today, he told me that his fiance, who's also an SRA survivor, she is willing to use her first and last name, and she's willing to give me a full interview. So I'm going to actually use Zoom. We scheduled it for Tuesday evening. I'm going to use Zoom to do a full-fledged interview with her, and then I'll be able to post that online. So I'm really excited about that. It'll be my first ever full-fledged interview with an SRA survivor. So this gentleman, when he first contacted me, he was telling me about his experience with these underground tunnels beneath the Masonic Lodge in Washington, D.C., and the tunnels that connect to all the major buildings. He knows the tunnels connect to the White House, they connect to the Federal Reserve, and they connect to the Capitol building. Of course, with Trump as POTUS now, I doubt the tunnel to the White House is being used, hallelujah, but I'm sure the other tunnels are still being serviced and used to this day. So he grew up with a father who was worked for NASA, and his position was to be a liaison between NASA and many people that came over from Operation Paperclip. And if you don't know about Operation Paperclip, make sure you do some research on that. That's where a lot of the Nazis were actually brought over to the United States rather than being executed like they should have been in the Nuremberg trials. So his dad actually knew Dr. Mengele, which is, the guy that I described in the previous video with Kenneth Copeland and the Oral Roberts situation. His father was connected with all these people being a liaison. And that's how he, as a very young boy, was subjected to this type of abuse. So as I started asking him questions about what actually went on, what actually happened, there were these dark tunnels that led from this Masonic Lodge. I'm going to post a link so that you can actually go to the website to see that Masonic Lodge and see what it looks like in the inside. But there are underground tunnels that connect to the Capitol Rotunda. This is where a lot of the senators and the House of Representatives, they get serviced from little boys and little girls. It's disgusting. It's sick. But this is what happens. The little girls and little boys are gathered in this Masonic Lodge. They go through a tunnel, brought underneath the basements of the Capitol Rotunda, and then the senators and House of Representatives, people that are committing pedophilia, which there's quite a few of them, I've heard estimates as high as 70%, will then go down and do this. And this is happening to this day, and it was happening when he was a small boy in the 1970s. So he was subjected to this. He saw all sorts of things. He did see the same type. What's amazing to me is he was describing the same type of stuff that the woman was describing to me that was going on underneath Oral Roberts. Same type of stuff where they would have they would be able to paralyze the baby. And I'm not even going to go into that. If you want to hear that stuff, you can go to the Kenneth Copeland stuff. But they would sacrifice, they would cannibalize, they would rape and torture. And I asked him, one question I asked him, I said, well, how did you survive and not these? And he explained to me how there's these two different classifications. So he's in a bloodline where his family's been doing this for generations. And so they would not kill him, but where they get the babies and the children that are not only raped, but they're also murdered and cannibalized. They get these mostly from third world countries, channeled through Catholic charities, or they get them through here in the United States through CPS, Child Protective Services, through adoption agencies, and to foster care. So that's where a lot of these kids are going. It's so sick and so disgusting. All right, I actually brought my notes with me so that I could do this outside rather than having to look at my laptop. So I'm just gonna bear with me here as I look at my notes. So he did come from a Jewish family, although they were actually not practicing Judaism in any sense of the word. They were definitely, his dad was definitely a full-fledged Satanist. And he also said that a lot of the people that gather in this particular lodge, they actually don't call themselves Satanists. They rather call themselves witches, because rather than saying that they're worshiping Satan, they're actually worshiping these demigods and demons and these other types of different gods that they sacrifice to and things like that. So basically, this is what was happening to him. Now, when he was a little small boy, and this was going on, he actually saw specific people that you're going to recognize. Now remember, this is in the 70s. He actually saw Hillary Rodham Clinton. Of course, she was much younger then, but in the 1970s, he actually saw her cannibalize a small baby. Okay, so he saw it with his own eyes, no doubt about it. He saw, of course, Bush Sr. He saw Bush Sr. He saw Jeb Bush, Jeb Bush, and he saw Earl Wheeler, of course, Mengele. Robert Byrd was there, which is no surprise. Senator Leahy and Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was there doing these types of things. I think his most painful memory was him seeing Hillary Clinton doing this. And, you know, in the 1970s, of course, Hillary Clinton, this was after the whole Watergate thing. And if you want to know more about how Watergate is really pedogate, you can go to Fiona Barnett's website, and you'll find out about Hillary Clinton's links to that and why that whole thing is actually pedogate. So this was after the Watergate scandal, after Hillary was, you know, really starting to move up, and she was participating in this stuff as a young woman. Robert Mueller was definitely there, so I've named those names. So I asked him, I said, well, how did you get out of this? How did you deprogram from the MK Ultra mind control? How did you get out of this whole type of, you know, thing that your family's been in for generations? And what happened was that his mom actually wound up divorcing the dad. The dad was the Satanist. The dad wound up killing their dog in a satanic ritual, and so his mom just finally filed for divorce and was able to get away. And he thinks that the reason he and his mom never got murdered is because his grandfather was also involved with a lot of this as well. But his grandfather did eventually kind of get out of that lifestyle and became a professor in a university in Chicago. So he thinks it's probably because his grandfather is standing with a lot of these people that's why they didn't murder him. Now, when he was growing up, and he was definitely wanting to get out of the situation, and as his mom was, you know, they definitely, when they found out that they wanted that, they hadn't quite broken free, but when they wanted to get out, they weren't going to kill him, but they did, you know, they turned up the torture, the harassment, all that type of stuff. He described times where they would attach electrodes to his brain and just fry his brain in order to erase memories. In fact, a lot of these memories that he had didn't even come back to him fully until 2006, when he was visiting a conference that helps SRA survivors. He was actually involved online as a forum of SRA, not even realizing he was an SRA survivor, because all these memories had been trapped. And again, if you know anything about MK Ultra and how this mind control works, you can go to Fiona Barnett. She's a great resource for this type of stuff. And you'll find out why some of these memories don't come out until much later. So it was in 2006 when a lot of this really just broke open for him, and he realized that he'd been used in child pornography and all sorts of gross things that his father had allowed him to be used, connected to these high-ranking politicians and to Dr. Mengele himself, who again was the sick sidekick doctor who assisted Adolf Hitler in World War II. So let me see what else I have in my notes. He was really good at answering a lot of my questions. I asked him, you know, specifically about where the tunnels went, which I've already shared on this video, but he was very clear that this is still going on, that basically there's a whole routine where the senators and House of Representatives, those who are involved in this, will directly go down to the basements where the tunnels lead from this Masonic Lodge to underneath the rotunda of the Capitol building, and that's where they get service. It's just so, it's exactly what's going on underneath Oral Roberts. It's just incredible. And keep in mind, this guy has never met the other woman that I was interviewing for the Kenneth Copeland Oral Roberts story, and yet they're describing the same exact things. And then both of these have never talked or interacted with Fiona Barnett, and Fiona Barnett describes these same types of things that she was subjected to as a little girl. So the evidence is adding up as you get more and more witnesses who don't even know each other, who have consistent testimony over decades, and who corroborate each other. It becomes a preponderance of evidence in any court of law. Okay, so toward the end of the interview, as I was talking to him, that is when his fiance said, hey, you know, I'm very public about this stuff. I definitely want to do an interview with you or let you interview me. So please do so, Daniel. And I said, okay, great. So we set up a time to do that. I'm really, really excited because this will be my first exclusive interview with an SRA survivor. And again, this will be his fiance that was also had a very traumatic childhood involved in a lot of this abuse. So this stuff is real. It needs to be talked about. It needs to be exposed. The public needs to be made aware of this. We need to put a stop to this. We need to have these sick murderers and Kabbalists and pedivores and pedophiles. We need to have them tried and publicly tried, not these secret trials, but as public as can be, that everyone can see the evidence, everyone can see that it's being done according to a court of law. And then, as I've urged, that they need to be publicly executed, not only because that's biblical, but also it would provide profound healing for the SRA victims. Hallelujah. So the one last thing he shared with me, and this is more of his opinion, but just opinion based on what he knows about Trump and what he knows about his own background, being involved with these high-powered people, and that is, he strongly believes that Trump is an SRA victim himself, that Trump was subjected to abuse when he was little, just because of the wealthy family he was in. And that this is personal for Trump, that Trump wants to take these people down because it's personal. It's a cause that he's fighting for and can believe in. So, and he shared that with me, and I thought, oh, that really rings true with my spirit. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Okay, hallelujah. Well, kind of a dark material. I'm going to post that website to the Masonic Lodge. You can go look at it yourself and do further digging. And I look forward to posting that interview on Tuesday night. I'll interview her after I get off work, and then I'll post it later that night or sometime on Wednesday, hopefully Tuesday night. So thank you all again for your support. If you do agree with what I'm doing, and you want to help me do this full-time, where I can be a full-time citizen investigative journalist in exposing these sick satanic pedophiles, protecting the innocent children, and preaching full-time on campuses across the nation, then please, my PayPal link is right below this video. Please donate. I also have a Patreon link where you can pledge your monthly support to me, and I have a link where you can buy my books, my thriller books. And my assistant Kathy, she did get up the second chapter of Hollywood Burning, so it's on Patreon now for you guys to view and to read. I'm gonna probably try to post more than one chapter a week because these chapters are really short. They're sort of like a James Patterson, Dean Koontz style, where the chapters are like, you know, staccato, very short. All right, thank you all for everything. You guys have been just so supportive in so many ways. I get so many emails. I get overwhelmed with emails, but it's in a good way. You know, it's in a good way, and I really appreciate just scriptures people send, thank you notes. Your donations have been incredible. In fact, if the donations continue at their pace, I'll probably be able to quit my full-time job within maybe 8 weeks or so. So we'll see if the pace maintains and keeps up. But I just appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. God bless you, and stay close to Him who created all things, Yahshua HaMashiach. He's our shield and our protector in these times. Yah bless.